This video, we're going to look at the mobilization of your page. So in other words, customizing what this looks like on a mobile. So you will have seen in previous videos, I've explained that you can toggle between the desktop editing and the mobile editing in the top left-hand corner of the screen. So in this example page that we built, if we have a look at the mobile version right now, it doesn't look very good because our logo takes up a huge space up here. And then, I mean, some other factors are actually not too bad, but this first above the fold area, if you like, as in what someone sees when they first open the page, doesn't really look great. So the way that the mobile builder works by default is that you can imagine the system really reading the page left to right, top to bottom. So what's happening is that all the elements on the page will be read. So starting with this one, then everything inside the row moving across left to right, and then we'll start again with the next section, the next row. And you can see that here because we can see on the mobile version we have the logo, then we have this headline and subheadline, then we have the address. If I go back here, you can see that sequence running through here. Okay, and then it moves down to the video, and then what's normally on the right of the video appears underneath with these checkpoints. So that's how it works by default, and what I'm going to show you now is how you can make adjustments between the desktop version and the mobile version. So the first principle to understand is that you can actually completely hide an element from the mobile version or vice versa from the desktop version. So if, for example, we were looking at this logo, we could actually click on the settings of this logo in the advanced area, whether or not this is visible on the desktop or the mobile. So by default, visibility on every element will always be set to both desktop and mobile. So if I click this mobile area here, this goes gray, and you'll see now that it shows here as desktop only. Vice versa, if I change it, if I hit this, and now it's not shown on desktop, but it's on mobile, if I toggle to the mobile version, I'll see it here, except it says mobile only. So I'm going to put that back to visibility on both. So that's one way that you can customize, simply by creating a version for the desktop and a version for the mobile. So an example of how that would work would be, say, okay, well, we want this logo size here. We're going to clone this element here, and we're going to say we want this one to be very, very small. Let's say we're going to have this as a 50, right? And we can say, okay, this one here, we want to show on the mobile only, and this one here, we want to show on the desktop only, so we cancel the other one. And now we have on the mobile a very tiny version, and on the desktop a larger version, right? There are still other ways you can do it. So for example, we could say, okay, let's go back to this one here, the mobile only, and I'm actually going to delete that, and I'll go back to the desktop, and we'll say, let's just use this for both, but I'll put a width restriction on it. So in the general area, I can say that I want a maximum width of this to be 150 pixels, right? And so this doesn't really change it on this size here, but if I go to the mobile, you'll see now, instead of taking up the full width, it looks a much more normal size. Okay, so continue with this. We are actually going to go back to the other method. I just wanted to show you that. So I'm going to clone that. I'm going to say I want this one to be just 100, and it's only going to show up on the mobile. So on my advanced, I'll turn off the desktop. And this other one, I only want to show on the desktop. Okay, so now I have a mobile only and a desktop only. I'm also going to say I don't even want the address to show up on a mobile, so I'm going to turn off the mobile for the address. And now let's have a look at some other things that you can customize in terms of mobile sizing. So right now we have a smaller icon here, and we have still some larger text here. So what you can do is you can actually change the text size for the mobile. So if I go back, we'll do this in this view here, and I look at the general settings here, you can see you'll actually have mobile font size and desktop font size. So I could put this down to 12 and it won't change anything here. But on the mobile version, you can see now it's quite small, probably too small. Okay, so we make that a little bit smaller. We can do the same thing with this headline here and bring that down a little bit. We can do the same with this one here and bring this down a little bit here, just like that. Now, the next thing we're going to address is the spacing of this page, because we can see here we have a larger spacing here than really would be ideal on the mobile, even though that looks fine on a desktop because we want it nicely spaced out, but on a mobile, we don't need this massive gap here. However, what happens is that if we bring down these paddings here, so for example, I reduce the padding on this row and the section as well, and we reduce the padding here. You can see this is bringing it closer and closer by reducing the padding on all the elements and sections here to bring this video up, right? And we can change this one as well. And now we have our video pretty close to the text, and that looks really great. But now when I go back to the desktop, we see it's really squished it up all the way up here. So the workaround to change this is to add a desktop-only spacer. Okay, and here's how that works. On the desktop version, we're going to add, under this subheadline here, we're going to add a divider. Okay, so here's our divider here, and we can change our settings of this divider. Oh, it's a little black line here. We can actually change the color of it to be completely transparent. So now there's nothing actually there, but what I can do is I can change the padding, which allows me to adjust the spacing underneath it. And you can probably see where I'm going with this. I'm now going to go into the advanced setting and make this divider visible on desktop only. So now I have this spacing tool really here, which only affects the desktop, but I still have a nice, neat, compacted version on my mobile. So that completes this video tutorial explaining to you how you can really customize and make tweaks to your page to make sure it's looking great on mobile. And I do always recommend actually going to your phone and loading the URL and having a look at actually what it looks like on your actual phone, rather than just depending on the mobile preview here, because it can sometimes vary in a subtle way between what actually shows on a mobile preview on a computer screen versus when you actually load it on your phone.